methane could be used as natural gas, right? And so we see a lot of that investment in California and other parts of the country now with dairy digesters. And there's always that opportunity to potentially improve feed efficiency if we lower methane emissions.
Well, today we're at the 2025 State of the Science Summit, and I'm very excited to have our next guest here on the podcast with us. Her name is Sara Place, and she is an associate professor of animal sciences at Colorado State University and a feedlot systems specialist for AgNext. And her research focuses on methane emissions and cattle systems. So that is perfect that you are here with us today at the summit.
Yeah.
First of all, just tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and I know the connection with UC Davis and with Dr. Frank.
Yeah. So I'm originally from upstate New York. I grew up on a dairy farm there. Went to ag school in terms of Morrisville State College, and then went to Cornell. But then actually met Frank at a conference back in, I think, 2008, right when I was graduating with my bachelor's, and learned about some of the work that was happening out here at that time of air quality and greenhouse gas emissions, and so ended up applying and going to grad school out here. Graduated in 2012, kind of dating myself now, with my PhD in animal biology, focused on methane and actually dairy cattle at the time, but have since in my career focused more on beef cattle.
I skipped over it, but tell us about AgNext. What is AgNext?
Yeah, so AgNext, we're a research collaborative at Colorado State University, and we're focused on sustainable solutions in animal agriculture. So we do work in methane emissions and climate, but we do work in animal health, in animal welfare, in worker training, in a whole host of issues, nutrition, modeling, right, of systems. So we have faculty members across multiple departments, across the College of Ag and the College of Vet Med and Biomedical Sciences that all work together on these topics of sustainability, which are quite big and gnarly. So
they are quite big and gnarly. And, we were talking just a little bit beforehand, but I mean, why do we need to mitigate methane? I mean, it seems kind of an obvious question that we're talking about at this 3-day summit, but why is it so important that we do mitigate methane?
Yeah. So obviously methane, it kind of comes up in conversations because it's a greenhouse gas, right? It's the second most potent greenhouse gas in terms of its contribution to warming that we've observed thus far. And methane is naturally produced from ruminant animals, right? So our cattle, sheep, goats are domesticated ruminants, but also wild ruminants, right? They all produce methane. It's just kind of a byproduct of their fermentation processes, and of course can also come from manure. So we're really focused on it just because it's a contributor to the climate impact from a standpoint of cattle production or ruminant production. But there's oftentimes potential opportunities there as well in terms of, say, with manure, methane could be used as natural gas, right? And so we see a lot of that investment in California and other parts of the country now with dairy digesters. And there's always that opportunity potentially when we think about reducing what we call enteric methane, the methane that ruminants naturally produce, of maybe we can improve feed efficiency if we lower methane emissions. So that's the key thing, is thinking about it in that more holistic manner. Are there win-wins of making the system more efficient or the animal more efficient, where yes, we can lower climate impacts, but also hopefully have economic and productivity benefits potentially as well.
How exciting is that for you personally?
Well, it's great, right? So it's an interesting field because it's always challenging, right? You're working with the biological systems that are animals, right? But you have to think about the bigger picture as well. So it's very important while we're talking about methane to keep that broader sustainability focus or holistic focus of, farmers actually have to be able to make money and stay in business first and foremost, and think about all the social issues and things that go with sustainability, not just greenhouse gas emissions.
Right. Now, I'm striking this next question right from your bio.
Yeah.
It said that Sara studies what influences and has the potential to mitigate methane in cattle, a topic that pertains to almost anyone who eats food. But I don't think I don't think everybody realizes that. How do you connect with the general public out there? You're really good at it. I have to compliment on that. You're really, really good at it. But how do you do that? How do we do that as communicators as well?
Yeah, well, I think that's the key, right? Everybody eats, so everyone is involved in agriculture, some way, shape, or form, in terms of either as a consumer only or in some way along the supply chain. And I think there's lots of examples where people don't maybe see all the connections of, say, agriculture or cattle production back to their life, right? There's a lot of great examples here in California. If we think about like all the say the byproduct feeds that end up going into the cattle industry, right? People don't necessarily, when they go to the grocery store, think about, say, a gallon of almond milk being connected to a gallon of milk, right? But if we think about what happens in California, right, there's a tremendous amount of almond production, right? 80% of the world's almonds produced in this state. And then we also have all these holes, the outer part of those almonds that are left over that often end up in dairy cow rations, right? So those things are connected. So I think that's sometimes where we do need to tell those stories more. One, because it's just fascinating, right? How all of it is connected. And then back to that bigger picture of sustainability, of thinking about if we pull one thread in our food system, everything moves. So we have to be cautious and thoughtful about what we do from a standpoint of major changes.
Yeah. Is there a common question you get from folks out there when you're talking about methane, trying to reduce it?
Yeah. I think it varies depending on where people are coming from. But I think the key thing is always just the basics for people of, yes, cattle produce methane. Most of it comes out the front end, right? And then just the basics of why they produce methane. It's not actually the cattle, right? It's the microbes that are living in symbiosis, right? Kind of that commensal relationship with them in their gut. So sometimes just those things are fascinating for people to learn and understand. Yeah.
Exactly. And now, since you've graduated and you've been in this field for a while, have you seen the conversation change a little bit? Have you seen it change over the years doing what you do?
Yeah, I'd say since when I graduated to now, right, the whole field has kind of exploded in terms of how much interest there is, right? And still, even when I was coming out of graduate school, it was not as talked about, right? But we also see the industry itself, right? The cattle industry is making huge investments in this space. Private industry investing and trying to figure out solutions. So I think there's been tremendous change, both from a pressure standpoint, but then also more of a positive outlook of really trying to think through how do we tackle these issues in a systematic way and actually reduce the climate impact of the food that we eat. Because at the end of the day, that's really what we're after, right? Is we have to nourish everybody. That's not an optional thing. And so how do we do it with less of a potential climate impact?
Which brings us to today and the summit. I mean, could you ever imagine having something like this, 10, 12 years ago?
Yeah, definitely not, right? Or the number of people that are working on this issue around the world, which is great, right? Yeah. Because the more brains that are working on this, hopefully the faster we're going to go.
And again, that means to you, like being in this field and being part of it, does it kind of come into a summit like this? Does it reinvigorate you?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. It's always, I feel last year and this year when I'm going to leave here, right, I'm excited to go back and say, okay, let's, one, make sure that we're publishing all the research that we're doing so we can share it with the broader community, right, and keep working on this space. I think there's a lot of, again, opportunity and really opportunity to learn, and hopefully, the big part of that is teaching the next generation of scientists, the next generation of professionals that are going to be in this space, that are the ones that are actually going to do all this work in the future.
Yeah. And where do you see the future going?
Well, hopefully we will eventually get to a place where we have a suite of options that are actually practical, make economic sense to reduce methane emissions that are safe, effective, right? Do not have negative consequences, potentially positive consequences on animal health and animal performance, right? That's kind of the goal, right? And those are the things that we have to check all those boxes, right? We can't just say, we just need to reduce methane. We have to actually check all those boxes at once. So hopefully that's where our future is headed, is that we have more tools in the toolbox that do all those things.